Are you struggling to find a job despite booming job market statistics? You're not alone. We've got the president out there saying it's the hottest job market we've seen in years, but it feels like it's really hard to find a job. My name is Jason Roberts. I'm a recruiter. I've been a recruiter for 25 years. I think I can unpack for you exactly why it's so hard to find a job right now and what you can do about it. Stay with me. We've just had a new jobs report come out from Bureau of Labor and Statistics, and it gives us some really insightful information into the job market and what's happening. What it tells us is that the unemployment rate has drifted upwards over a period of some time to 4.1%. Now, last month, you'll remember if you watched here, last month we had drifted up to 4%. Now, that was the first time in 22 months we had crossed the 4% mark, and now we're at 4.1. What's concerning is not that we're at 4.1%, though that is a problem. A year ago, we were at 3.6% unemployment. What's concerning is that's been a slow drift upward from 3.6 up to 4.1%. The average unemployment in 2019, just as a refresher, a little bit of a presidential debate fact check for you here. In 2019, the average unemployment was 3.7%. So I'm putting up a chart for you right now. This is from Indeed, and Indeed has put together a view of what unemployment looks like. And what you can see is there was this jump in unemployment during COVID. So we had that spike in COVID, and we were up in the 7% mark, 7 and change. And the unemployment rate has been steadily declining. Now, what I think is that this has not been a true decline. I think that after a while, people drop off of the unemployment report. But now we're starting to see this number increase again. Now, at the same time, if I give you this jobs report and you see the number of open jobs, that number of open jobs is decreasing, and especially during this period. So this period, while we're seeing this rise in unemployment, we're seeing a drop in the number of jobs. So we have more people looking for fewer jobs. In the end, that makes it hard to find a job, way harder to find a job than it has in the past. That's what's happened. That's the bottom line. That's why it feels so hard to find a job. And it's just now. We've been talking about this for months now. I put out my first video on this topic in January. We've been talking about it for 6 months now. And we're just now starting to see the data catch up with the way that it feels to be in this market. So you're not alone. You're right. It is really hard to find a job. Here's what the unemployment report says. The rate drifted upward to 4.1%. Payroll growth remains robust, but it's in a trend downward. And 177,000 jobs were added this last time. And that's way less than it used to be. Remember, we were adding, beginning of this year, we had 287,000 jobs added. This month, it was only 177,000 jobs. So you can see that there's fewer new jobs opening. There's higher unemployment. The concern is that this combination of a decrease in the number of jobs that are being opened and an increase in unemployment could create a really significant unemployment jump, losing any more jobs. So if we go from 177 to say 115, 100,000, then our unemployment rate would really be impacted. It would spiral. So we're in a bit of a tough spot. Now, since I work in the staffing business, the hiring business, we have felt a leveling out on our side. And what I think may be happening is the way that we're experiencing this with our clients and with the industry that we're in, I may have a little bit of a head start. My gut feel and what I'm seeing happen with us may be a little bit ahead of what the actual statistics say. We know that unemployment statistics are definitely a backward-looking metric. What I'll tell you is I feel like there's a bit of a leveling off. I've not seen a significant improvement, but things are not getting any worse either. So I think we're flattening this thing out. Remember flattening the curve? We had to flatten the curve. I do think that's what we're doing right now in real life. We are flattening this drop downward that we had here, and things are starting to improve. There's also been a new article released by CNN This article says Americans are suddenly finding it harder to land a job and keep it. Well, no kidding, man. It's been hard to find a job for a little while. I'm surprised that it took you so long to figure this out, Mr. CNN. Maybe this is why you're CNN. But you ever wonder why Joe Rogan has more viewers than CNN does? This might be why these guys were super surprised that it's hard to find a job, but nobody else was. All right. So here's what they're saying. Unemployment rate rose to a 3-year high at 4.1%. This is true. Here's what this says. This is really interesting to me. And I had not done this math myself. With 6.8 million people unemployed, that's the number. At that time a year ago, the unemployment rate was 3.6%, and 6 million people were unemployed. That's 6 million people unemployed. I didn't realize that those fractions equaled that high of a percentage, right? So for every 0.1%, that's almost 2 million people that are unemployed. That's a lot. So think about that. Every 0.1%, that's 2 million more people that are competing for jobs out there in the job market actively. I had no idea that was the case. That was really good math that they did. So thank you, CNN, for doing that work. That was really helpful for us here. It also says that people who are unemployed are staying unemployed longer. Median duration of unemployment jumped from 8.9 to 9.8. It's taking people a longer time. And I think that's the case as well. I get lots of comments here in my comment section. By the way, I do encourage you, leave some comments in the comment section. Specifically, the comments that I'm looking for in this one is, what are you seeing in the job market? Has it gotten harder for you to find a job or easier? Are you seeing more activity, more responses on resumes, or are you seeing fewer responses? I'd be curious to know your feet on the ground experience. So let me know that. But what I'm seeing from previous comments is that it is taking a longer time to find a job, though there are people finding jobs. There are people coming back to my comment sections and saying, hey, I did find this job. So do be encouraged. There is hope out there. Fear not, that this too shall pass. That there is a way to get out of that. And I think that's the key message for this recording, because all the doom and gloom that's out there, we don't have to stop with doom and gloom. We can have some positive things too. And there are some positive things to know. What I'll tell you is I think people do find jobs. Everybody finds a job eventually. I've seen very few people who are stuck unemployed for their entire existence and they never find another job. Most people find something new. And what I'll tell you is you too will likely find something new. There's 2 or 3 things that I'm seeing people do that's resulting in some success in finding a job. And here's what those are. The first is it takes a large number of resumes to find a job these days. There's a thing that I heard Alex Hormozy say about sales that I think applies to searching for jobs. He says volume negates luck, meaning the more people you call, the more people who will say yes to your sales pitch. That happens with resumes too. You're selling your services, yourself for that job. The more people you contact, the more likely it is that someone is going to be a buyer of you, buyer of your skills and your services for work. So volume negates luck. And I think lots of resumes, they say 200 applications to find a hire. That's probably about right. So the first thing is they're diligent and they send a lot of resumes. Number 2, this market, it's not good enough just to send a resume. You need to send a resume that's customized for a specific job. And the way that I'm encouraging people to do that is you read the job description, you pull out the right keywords, and you make sure that you have those present in your actual resume. Here's why that's important. The first thing to review your resume is typically an applicant tracking system or an ATS. That ATS is not particularly smart. It can't make inferences. It's looking for specific keywords or similar keywords. The smarter that machine is, and I don't know if you want to count on that machine being smart, but what I'll tell you is I work with these systems all the time. There's a couple of good ones. Most are not great. So I would count on doing everything that I can do in order to bridge the gap between what's on my paper, what's on my resume, and what that job description is, so that you're more likely to show up as relevant. Candidates show up in recruiters' inboxes based on relevance. How good of a fit are they for that particular job? If you're the best possible fit, you're a 10 out of 10, you show up on top of the stack. So your job is to get your resume to the top of the stack. That's how you do it. So send lots of resumes. Not only send lots of resumes, send lots of good resumes. Send lots of qualified resumes, lots of relevant resumes. That's your job. That's what you've got to do in order to find a job. The other thing that I'm seeing people do is they're working their network actively. Now, I know that's super frustrating to hear because you may not have a big network, but what you can do is get to the hiring manager. If you don't have a network, you can get to the person who's hiring. And I have a video here with lots of detail on exactly how to find out who the hiring manager is, how to do a little detective work online to find that hiring manager. And you can do that. That's completely possible. You do some extra homework. You don't do this for every job, right? If you're sending out 200 applications, you don't do it for 200 hiring managers, but you might do it for the top 10, the top 15. If you've got 5 jobs you're super interested in, really do it for those. Know exactly who those people are and hunt them down and talk to them, right? Find a way to get in front of the hiring manager. That's half the game. Half the game is getting in front of that hiring manager. It's your shot. You have a chance to sell yourself. Can you do that? All right. Now, the last piece is in the interview process, being fully prepped for an interview. It means doing your homework beforehand, knowing the sorts of questions to expect, and then following up on that interview with diligence. So making sure you ask the 2 most important questions to ask in an interview. Those 2 questions are, do you see any red flags that I can address while we're here on the phone together? And number 2, what are the next steps in this process? Who else do you need me to speak with? And when can I expect to hear back from you? So the first one is about making sure that you address any objections or things they have in the back of their mind while you still have them on the phone. The second one is about getting a commitment from them on when you'll see follow-up and feedback. And what that does is it creates a little bit of a social contract. And you say, all right, if I don't hear from you by this day, do you mind if I call you? What's the best way to reach you? So you get permission in advance to call them back. And you do that during the interview. So you get ready for what's coming next during the interview. People appreciate that, by the way. They really do. If you're going for a sales job, they will love you just for asking those questions. You'll show up as super smart just for asking that and driving the follow through, driving to the close. If you're going for a sales position, you need to treat that engagement like you would treat a prospect, somebody that you're really going after for a sale, and behave that way. Show them what a good salesperson you are while you're selling yourself as a good person. So work that process. Everybody else, this is what salespeople do. And like it or not, you're in the sales business for a little while. Your number one job is to sell you, to sell your skills, your experience, your capabilities to that employer. What I'll tell you is this is a really tough time. You will look back on this time that you're looking for a job and it feels impossible right now. It feels like you're not going to find a new gig. It feels demoralizing, but this too shall pass. You will find a new job. It won't be fast. It won't happen immediately. It's taking longer than it has in the past. This study said 10% longer. I feel like it's longer than that. It takes a very long time. The more senior you are, the higher you are on the pay scale, the longer that it takes to find a job. But you'll do it. You can do it. You will find your next job. I know it for sure. I see everybody do it. It just takes a little while longer this time. I wish you the very best of luck in your job search. And I'm leaving some resources here for you. I've linked to a few resources along the way. I'm trying to give you any inside scoop that I have in order to help you be successful in finding this job. I wish you the very best of luck in this search.